what I love about Nicole. She is a mother who plays, really plays.
What I love about Charlie.
He loves being a dad. He loves all the things you're supposed to hate, like waking up at night.
She knows when to push me and when to leave me alone.
He never lets other people keep him from what he wants to do.
Dad, you're too far.
I know. It's not easy for her to close a cabinet.
He's incredibly neat.
She's brave.
He's brilliant.
She's
He's very
very
competitive.
Charlie and I are getting a divorce, Mom. You can't be friends with him anymore.
Gee, Mom. Charlie Bird.
Mom. Mom? Mom.
What?
You know, most people in my business, you're just transactions to them. I like to think of you as people.
Oh, okay, good.
You remind me of myself on my second marriage.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Watch This Podcast. I'm Alan.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Devon.
And I just realized what trailer is going to be playing before we get in the episode. So that was a very cheery intro for what I'm sure is a very depressing trailer.
I purposely did that, so you know.
Yeah.
Ryan's just fighting this whole thing already.
So today it's a new month, and we kind of stumbled into a theme for this month, which is Oscar movies. It's about a month after the Oscars, so everything that was nominated is pretty much out now for us to rent and get at Redbox and watch legally. So we're going to start going through some of the stuff that was nominated that we saw and enjoyed. Mm-hmm. And we're starting it off with a movie that Devon saw, Marriage Story.
And enjoyed.
Yeah. So Devon.
And enjoyed. Like, I specifically wanted both of you to watch this because I wanted to talk about it because this movie meant a lot to me this year. And I cannot wait to talk all about how much you guys, I'm sure, loved this movie.
Okay. So let's dive right into it. Like, tell us about the first time you watched this, because this is a movie that's on Netflix. Did you see this in theaters? Did you watch it on your phone? Did you watch it?
Yeah, so I ended up watching this probably in the worst conditions one could ever watch a movie. I watched it on my phone on an airplane. And typically when I watch movies like in that environment, I'm half paying attention to it. It doesn't hold my, like, almost no matter what the topic, it will not hold my attention. And I'm always doing something else or thinking about how my back hurts or how my butt hurts or how I'm hungry or whatever. But this movie legitimately gripped me the whole time. From like the second I started watching it until it stopped, like I was locked in the movie and I was along for the ride. So I like literally from the get-go loved it, and I picked it for you guys because we had talked earlier, and I want to give a little bit of background just to justify me. We talked a little bit earlier about me wanting to watch more rom-coms, and I want you guys to know something about this movie and where it's coming from. Now, Ryan is cringing, which is good because you and Romana will agree with each other, but I want to hear about you guys. What did you guys think?
Ryan, do you want to start?
Okay. I don't have a problem with the movie. I liked it. It's good. Great acting, great storyline, great everything. The context of why Devon wants us to watch this is what's getting to me.
Okay. Well,
and I will explain that later.
Yeah, when we get into that, we'll get into that. I enjoyed this movie. It made me cringe at spots. And we'll get into why. But it's fine. It's a nice drama. I found myself both cheering and booing both of the main characters at certain spots, which I think it does a very good job of showing both sides.
Yep.
Even though it is pretty leaning towards one side heavily, like you see more of Adam Driver's side of things than you do ScarJo's, and I think that's because of the director. And we'll get into all of that.
Yeah.
And but what I have an appreciation for this movie for everything that everyone brought into this movie. Because both Noah Baumbach, the director, and ScarJo and Laura Dern all went through divorces.
Yeah.
So they all brought in something to this movie. So, like, he cast Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson early on to help shape their characters with their own experiences.
Yep.
Along with his. So I really appreciate the community aspect of it, like everyone contributing something. And you could really see that when ScarJo's meeting with Laura Dern for the first time. She's telling all these stories. You can just picture her with Ryan Reynolds going through all this stuff, from her first marriage. So, I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
Yeah.
I thought it looked great for being on Netflix. Devon talked about watching it on his phone on a plane. I watched it at my computer, on my computer monitor through my PS4. So I could appreciate the different aspect ratio. I could see the film grain. I thought it was a beautifully shot movie.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it.
I saw it on my Xbox that's on my TV, which both of you guys have seen too. So I mean, I had the sound way up. So I mean, the music I thought was great in this film.
Oh, we'll get into that.
Yeah. So I mean, I thought the music fit, here and there, but I mean, to Alan's point, you can tell that everybody brought their A game into this movie, because this is one of those films where this is to me as an artist, to me for an artist, this is a portfolio film. This is a movie you can point to show how good you are at your craft. I could definitely see Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson pointing to this film more than Star Wars or Iron Man for their acting ability. So to me, this is more of a this is a portfolio film. This is a work stamp type of thing.
This is their demo. This is going to go in their demo reel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And there are definitely some parts of it where I can see that being the demo reel, and I can go, oh yeah, that was so well acted, and just the nuance that they all brought to their roles, I thought was so good. And Laura Dern won the Oscar for this one, and I think it was absolutely warranted. I thought she was phenomenal in it.
Can we just say she's Satan? Out of this whole film, to me, she's the most evil one.
She really is.
Yeah, she's the most evil person in the thing.
She's based on a real person.
I'm not surprised.
Oh, is she?
Yeah. She was based on one of the lawyers that I think 3 of them had to deal with during their divorces.
Yeah.
I think it was ScarJo, Noah Baumbach, and I think Laura Dern.
Yeah.
I think they all went through that person, so she made it into the film. And
That's so great.
She's the devil, but then you get Alan Alda, who's just kind of Alan Alda.
I was so excited to see Alan Alda in this movie. In the middle of a plane, I went, "Oh, that's Alan Alda!" To nobody. I just was so happy he was around.
There were three actors that made me go, "Oh my god!" In this movie, Alan Alda is one of them. Wallace Shaw is another.
Who's that?
Oh, he played such a good part.
Inconceivable.
Oh, him, the Grand Agus. Yes,
Yeah.
I was going to bring that up. There are 2 Star Trek actors in this that jumped out to me and distracted me completely.
And then the third one is Tilly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You haven't watched Discovery, Devon, so
You
yeah,
have no
she's
idea.
on
I don't know
Discovery.
who Tilly is.
She's the redhead actor in the theater company.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
no,
I saw her.
yeah.
I was looking at IMDb watching the movie, and
Yeah.
I saw her name. I was like, oh, I miss her. And then it was the last scene with the theater company. It's like, oh my god,
Yeah.
there she is. Oh my, there is a lot we need to talk about in
Yeah.
this movie. So I think we need to. We've been bearing the lead for a while now. Devon, give us your justification for making us watch this.
Please.
I feel
All right.
like we can't have
All
a
right.
conversation without addressing that first.
No, and you're right. And I've had this conversation yesterday with Romana, and I've already gotten crap for it because I understand, and you all need to know this, I understand this is not a rom-com. I understand that it is not going for the same thing a rom-com is. I understand it's not trying to hit the same beats. I totally get that. I understand this is not it. What this movie does for me that is so important to me is it shows parts of a relationship in a very realistic kind of way that I now want from movies that deal with relationships. So in a rom-com, if I see a couple fight, my expectation now in a post-marriage story world is that the fight in the relationship is shown as realistically as this one is. I want problems to be framed as realistically as this one is, and I don't like the zany cartoon antics of we're arguing. I think that this frames a relationship and does it in such a brilliant way that this is now the standard to which I'm going to hold relationship movies or relationships portrayed in film. That's honestly my take on it.
Okay. Ryan's been wanting to yell at you this whole time, so I will.
No, let's do it. Please.
Okay, I'm sorry, but no. I understand that you know that this is not a rom-com, so you need to not judge rom-coms off this movie. I do not understand why on IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes and every other critic review thing that I read after watching this movie, because I did not understand why rom-com even came up in the conversation for this, why people consider this in that vein. I understand that there were some moments that were kind of funny. I never laughed at anything in this film.
Right.
Like, to me, this was a straight up drama. If you were going to judge, Devon, if you were going to judge like Runaway Bride and Pretty Woman and other romantic comedies like P.S. I Love You and the 5-Year Engagement, you are going if you are going to judge rom-coms off of this film, what you are doing is the same thing of judging old comedies after Burn After Reading. This is like if you've never seen a comedy before in your life and watched Burn After Reading, and you're like, this is it. If I watch another comedy and it's not set up like this, I'm not going to enjoy it. And then you read the script for, Ferris Bueller's Day Off and go, oh, this is crap. This is not a comedy. This isn't good. That's exactly what you're doing.
That's a really, really interesting analogy for that, though. I mean, I totally understand where you're coming from, where Burn After Reading is, I love that movie, but it's not what I would consider a normal comedy ever. And I would never consider it and Ferris Bueller in the same genre even. But yeah, I guess I get it. I think I do need to watch more, but I think I know the point I'm trying to make is that I don't enjoy cheese in relationship movies and in rom-coms, and I like that this had almost a distinct lack of cheese,
which made it not a rom-com.
So that's just something I'll have to take about rom-coms, is that there's just a marked amount of cheese.
It's not always cheese though. I'm trying to think of some examples. I'm
trying to think of the Holiday,
Sarah
right?
Marshall?
When they made. I don't know if I've seen that one.
Which one?
I might have.
Trying to Forget Sarah Marshall. That's a good rom-com because that's got a bit of drama in it, but it's also got that humor.
See, I would look at that more as I don't even consider that a rom-com.
That's more than this.
It definitely is. The problem is I just did some research. Part of the comedy classification thing usually comes from the Golden Globes. They nominated The Martian as a comedy or musical. It's not a musical, and it sure as hell isn't a comedy.
What?
Yeah. There are comedic aspects to The Martian.
Yeah.
Him talking to himself saying, I'm going to science the shit out of this is funny.
Yeah.
But and Matt Damon does give a comedic performance, but overall that film is not a comedy.
Yeah.
It's a drama.
Oh.
And there may be some lighthearted moments in this movie.
Yeah, but it's not funny.
But it's at the end of it, it's kind of a tragedy if you look at it. It's the tragedy of how this marriage falls apart and how they it's a year in their life where their marriage is ending.
Yeah.
There's not anything funny about that. So I don't even know, I feel like just looking at classifications on IMDb isn't a great way to judge a film. Because you can,
well, because, okay, so here's the thing. Partly, not like I said, not just the classifications, but also reading reviews. Yeah. I read a review from The Atlantic. I read a review from NPR. I went through and read as many reviews as I could find. And each one in the first paragraph said Marriage Story. And a few people even said it in the very first paragraph. I don't understand why this is considered a rom-com, but this is an excellent film.
Here's how I can see it as a rom-com without it being a rom-com. It follows the formula of a rom-com in reverse. Instead of them getting together at the end, they're completely apart.
Okay. I could see it being a dark romantic comedy. I could see it that way.
It does follow some of the beats of a rom-com. So instead of the meet cute, you get the serve cute. Like him getting served with the papers. There's a quirky story there.
Okay, so
it takes the rom-com formula and plays with it to a point where instead of dealing with the beginning of this relationship and seeing where it goes, it's starting at the end of a relationship and see where, like, how far into the ground it goes.
And the thing is, I was expecting it to be funny, even during one of the most serious scenes of the film, because they actually have Adam Driver, them coming home after their, after performance dinner, and and the babysitter is watching that Tim Hanks movie, Money Pit. She's watching the Money Pit.
Oh,
and she makes the comment. He makes the comment about, I don't know, I don't watch that much TV. And this is another thing that kind of ticked me off a little bit. It goes from her sitting looking at Adam Driver, and the camera's from his perspective. And then he says that line, well, I don't watch much TV. And then as she looks at him annoyed and she looks to the TV, the camera from his perspective moves over to the TV, and it's the scene of him in the wheelbarrow going down the hill in Money Pit. And the camera turns back and she turns her head away from it. And I'm like, oh, that's such a cool camera angle. If they're going to do stuff like this throughout the movie, that's going to be interesting. And I thought that's where the humor was going to be. But they never do that again in the entire film. And I don't understand why they show the whole thing about having the Money Pit on the screen made me think that was a hint to something else. And it never was.
I mean, I can
it's
see
a little
that.
bit more in depth, than I thought, because I don't know Money Pit, so I don't know like what to take away from that.
Early Tom Hanks movies, they're all of them. Well, not all of them, but you've got, but you got the Money Pit, you've got the Suburbs,
the Burbs,
the Burbs,
Sleepers in Seattle.
Sleepers in Seattle. Those are all good romantic comedies.
Splash. So
that's why I was thinking, oh, okay, well, they're showing Tom Hanks. He did mostly rom-coms as a younger actor. This will, become, kind of like, like funny things are going to happen throughout all this tragedy or something. And it just never happened.
So I also think part of it is, and I don't know Noah Baumbach that well. I don't know his work. I think this is the first movie of his I've actually seen. I think this is his take on a romantic comedy. So I feel like it's,
so him and Devon have the same line.
No,
of thinking.
and I don't even think it. Like I think it's what I was saying before. Is he's taking that romantic comedy formula and playing with it in his own way, telling his story, having all of them tell their own divorce stories in this film,
and that's great. And that is wonderful.
And I feel like there's like romantic comedy irony in the title of the film. It's called Marriage Story, but it's about a divorce. Like, if that's not irony, I don't know what is.
No, I mean, like, it is irony. Yeah. And I will take this if it's like a dark comedy, if it's like a dark rom-com.
Oh, it definitely has elements of dark comedy.
I'm fine with that. The whole crazy mother thing, I thought that was actually partly humorous about like her mom being nuts. And I like the actress. I liked the actress that they picked with her because she's a comedic actress. She was in the Airplane movies, and I liked her in the Airplane movies. So, I mean, I can see that. It's just my main point in the entire time I was watching this film, and after the end of it, I was thinking to myself, Devon's judging the script from a rom-com off of this film. He's never going to like any rom-com if he's trying to, to this. So that's where like my whole thing is.
Yeah.
Like,
so Devon, where are you at right now? I know the two of us have been talking for a while, and
so I can understand that this isn't a rom-com, and I totally get that, and I appreciate that. Like, I know that I do have to start framing things a little bit differently. I like the analogy a lot with Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I think that helped kind of illuminate a lot for me. But I think the parts of it that I loved. So first off, I know I love dark humor. I know that's me. Death at a Funeral is the original one, is like one of my favorite movies. So I just really like dark humor a lot. So I think that I latched onto the humor of this movie more than a lot of people might have. And that's okay. But I think that the more realistic portrayal of some aspects of a relationship are the part that I think I look for in a movie about relationships more. And I think that I don't know. I think I might have. I just think in general, I do a harder time with the camp or a harder time with the cheese. Like, I think that the concept of a meet cute isn't something that I routinely want to watch. Like,
and that's fair. And I feel like good romantic comedies nowadays are getting away from that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There are still those bad ones with Rebel Wilson getting knocked out, and then being in a romantic comedy and playing into those tropes. But there are some better ones, and I have a few on the list for us to watch.
Yeah.
That I know you guys haven't seen that we can get to. One that comes to mind is Begin Again.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a romantic comedy per se, but it's more of a romantic comedy than this.
Yeah. So, Devon, one thing too is I have to understand the romantic comedies that we're going to have you watch eventually.
Yeah.
These are like the best.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
we're cutting out all of the like Lifetime, quasi-Lifetime type ones. Like, these are generally like, you know, how like, you know, like you'll have a guy who's like, oh yeah, no, I don't like romantic comedies. But then people start naming romantic comedies, and that same guy who's like, I don't like romantic comedies, like, oh yeah, no, that's funny. Oh yeah, no, that's good. Like, these are those, like, you know, really accepted rom-coms. Like, we're not going to be having you watch the real cheesy ones that like hardly
I'm not
anybody.
going to watch like Christmas in Handcuffs or
Don't-
something.
No,
Yeah.
you're not.
Okay, so since we are going to be doing this in the future,
Yeah.
Ryan, what is one movie that you're going to have Devon watch that's a rom-com?
I've got like 3 or 4 in my head.
I'm asking you for one.
I know, but I've got to talk through it because I've got
that's
to
fine.
think.
Do you want me to tell mine for a bit?
Yeah, yeah.
So the one that I've been talking about making you watch for a while is Kate and Leopold with Meg Ryan and Hugh Jackman. And the thing with that movie is, while it's a rom-com, it's also a fish out of water time travel story. So where you get the cheesy stuff is not from the romance, it's from the time travel aspect of it all. So it's got the romantic cheesy stuff. Yes, it's a Meg Ryan rom-com, but it also has this other element of time travel and other things. So it's like the fish out of water type story. So it's not just a rom-com where they meet in the subway with a meet cute. There's more to it than just that. And another romance. Okay, I gave my one. I yelled at Ryan. Do you have?
I was
your
about
one?
to say, yeah, you yelled at me for doing something like that. I like Tom Hanks, but then again, I like Runaway Bride and Pretty Woman, and I think I'm gonna go with Runaway Bride because to me that's the like our parents' era classic rom-com like type because of the people who were in it.
Okay.
It's got some of the cheese in it because it was made in like the early 90s, but it's
That was late 90s.
late 90s?
Runaway Bride?
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris Maloney's in that, and he was definitely on SVU by that point.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. He was. He wasn't SVU at that point. Yeah. So I mean, it's not as well known. It's not as like as well received as like Pretty Woman, and it's not as funny or as like Tom Hanks's as the Tom Hanks ones that I like. But it's one of the few like it's the furthest. It's the rom-com that is as deep into the rom-com deep end of the pool as I'd go.
Okay.
Because there's a few scenes in that I really, really like.
At the same time, though, that's too deep into the well for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I like Julia Roberts, but that's not my go-to.
Well, I mean, it's not really my go-to either, but it's something that I think
Like
would be a good reference
I'd
point.
much rather watch My Best Friend's Wedding than that.
I don't like My Best Friend's Wedding.
Yeah.
I wonder. I'm really curious about these because I wonder what people like and don't like. Because I ultimately am like somebody who watches a superhero movie and doesn't like superhero movies, and they go, all superhero movies are the same. It's gonna be some guy and it's gonna be an accident and he gets his powers and then he does a superhero thing and there's a bad guy and then he wins.
Could have said spoilers.
For every MCU movie. But like that's how I feel about rom-coms. So I'm very curious about what aspects of them make them interesting and what aspects of them didn't. And I think maybe I might be so jaded because, Alan, I watched that Rebel Wilson movie expecting it to be a send-up of the romantic comedy genre, and that's not what I got.
Yeah. I'm not surprised.
Look at this thing. Look at this thing. Did you know this thing? The end.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like, wasn't that movie more just, hey, we're going to lean into this and not make fun of it. We're just going to do it.
Pretty much. I mean, we're going to do it while Rebel Wilson comments that we're doing it. Like, oh my gosh, we're having a meet cute. I hate meet cutes. But it's still a meet cute, and it's still happening.
Do you want to know what I'll do? I'm going to have him do, this is Sleepless in Seattle. Because I was thinking about it, and my thing with the reason why that Runaway Bride is as far deep in that pool as I'll get, the male actor.
Richard Gere.
I like Richard Gere.
I like Richard Gere
And
as well.
to me, I can feel that he had fun making that movie, especially bouncing off of her. I could definitely see that they had fun, but there's a really cool scene in that Devon, I think you'd like, and I don't want you to have to sit through the whole movie to get to this one scene, so I'll just tell you what it is.
Okay.
She's dated and she has run away from like 3 different guys at the altar, or like 4 different guys at the altar. Why she's called Runaway Bride. And he finds out, interviewing all of these people, all of these guys in town, that she always had her eggs like they had their eggs. Like, the one had it scrambled, the one had it this, and she always paired off of them. And he confronted her about that when they had their fight, about, hey, you don't even know how you like your eggs. And she makes like a snarky comment back. Well, later in the film, when they're doing their own thing, they show her in her kitchen with 8 plates, and it's all eggs done differently, and she's trying each one to see which one that she likes.
Aww.
And I really like that follow through, that storyline, because it's something so small, but it's true. Like, she always copied her partner, that she never really discovered what she liked for herself. So, I mean, that's kind of why I like to, that's why I go that deep for that movie. But I think Sleepless in Seattle would be better.
Now, the egg thing is one of my favorite parts of Runaway Bride. Like, that's one of the kind of jokes, but storylines that I really enjoy, because it is a clever quirk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we need to get back to Marriage Story.
Yeah.
Right.
No, the Marriage Story.
Right.
It was just,
I'm excited to watch both of those movies, though. I hope we do them soon.
Okay. So, Devon, since you're the one who made us watch this, do you want to take point on this and ask some stuff? And
yeah. Okay. So one of the things that literally drew me into the movie first was the intro, because the intro is them talking about each other in these very endearing terms, like, and very, very, nice. And then almost smash cutting directly to them in the divorce, like, counselor or in marriage counseling. And one of the things that I think, I mean, as a married guy in general, or soon to be married, or whatever status I currently am right now.
It's bad that you don't even know.
Yeah, we're like this weird middle ground.
Yeah, it's really hard for me to explain to my wife sometimes, because like, I always want to refer to Romana as like your wife, but then I stop myself. So Kristen's always asked me, like, are they married or not? Like, what's going on?
I mean,
in the eyes of the United States government, yes. In the eyes of us, no. So however we refer to ourselves. But it's so, the part that drew me in and the part that was so jarring is seeing how in love and how much respect this couple has for each other, immediately juxtaposed by just this, I mean, just the exact opposite. I don't want to read mine. The whole, like, I have so much contempt for you, I'm not even going to say nice things. And how you can see a relationship turn from that to that. And in what seems like no time at all. At that part, not only was I drawn in, but I was also, like, terrified. I was like, oh my God, that's literally my worst nightmare just played out. Like, as like a quasi-married, whatever I am guy. Did you guys have a strong reaction to that? Or did you guys just go, okay, well, that's the set up the movie, let's go on?
I mean, it was kind of hard to have as strong of a reaction as you did, because I kind of know where this movie's going. Part of the problem with this movie is that in the few months that it's been out, because it was on Netflix, it became meme material right away.
Yeah.
So, like, So it's about a divorce. They have this giant fight later on. So it's heart-wrenching to have them say all these nice things and hear everything they have to say about each other, and then just have it turn. It never gets read. Like, it is heart-wrenching, and that's a married guy. Like, that is something that, like, I was thinking about it myself. Like, what would I write about my wife? Mm-hmm. And like, would I like? Yeah, like.
Okay.
I kind of lost where I was going with that. But.
No, for me, I just took it as the normal setup because, I mean, I already kind of knew what the movie was about.
Yeah.
And I was somewhat kind of confused about how it started because they're talking about each other, this and that. And then when it went into the counselor's room and she said that she didn't want to read hers, I was like, oh, okay, this is the setup. Well, I mean, I didn't really think too deeply about it.
Even with the introductions for each of them, the further on you get, the more you can tell that they're actually annoyed with this stuff, especially with the Monopoly.
Well, yeah.
Like, the Monopoly... Like,
that was shown right at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, no, yeah. But I'm talking about, like, in their introductions. You can tell that there's a little... Like, even though they're saying these nice things, there's hostility there. Like, you can pick it up in the way in the words that they use. They're too nice in spots.
Yeah.
And, like, it's so juxtaposed to what you're seeing on screen. Like, him getting up and leaving Monopoly. This is bullshit. Yeah. Like, you can tell there's hostility there, even in these lovely notes that they wrote for each other. Mm-hmm. Which I really enjoy.
And I think...
Yeah,
I think part of that is what I like the most about this movie is it does a lot subtly. It's not as bombastic as a lot of movies are where they're like, I hate you more. It does it in a way that I feel like real couples would talk in that situation.
I was going to make a joke, but...
No, do it.
It's bombasket. Because it's Noah Bombast.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, everyone.
I liked it. Don't you beat yourself up. But so that was immediately one of the things I was drawn to the most about this movie. And then I liked one of the things I liked the most then afterwards was how out of control it got from two people that just meant well. Like, it looks like they went into this divorce and they both wanted to do well by each other. They both wanted to do good, and they just wanted as amicable a divorce as possible. They wanted to not make this hard on their son and hard on their lives. But they did definitely want a divorce. And then everybody outside of it kept escalating and escalating and escalating to the point where they had to have that fight. And I thought that was another interesting aspect of it, where both of these people are being completely affected by the situation and by the people in the situation and not necessarily by themselves or what they want.
Yeah, you can definitely see there's outside manipulation to their situation.
Not just outside manipulation. This movie shows you how much of a horrible nightmare and minefield divorce court is.
Yeah.
I mean, you take two people that really just wanted to split things evenly, or maybe even just not evenly, because he was fine with her taking whatever she wanted. He didn't care. I mean, well, he did care, but he was being nice. But, I mean, it's like at the same time, it was where, like, both of them were ignorant about what the law was. Like,
yeah.
It's like she went out to LA not knowing that he couldn't talk to a lawyer that she had already talked to, not knowing that bringing the kid along was going to cause that much problem. Like, because people just don't know these things who haven't been through it.
See, here's the thing, though. I feel like at a certain... They don't really ever say that she didn't know that. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I kind of read it as she did do this to screw him over.
No, because see, the thing is, the clue for me that she didn't was when the secretary said, oh, no, it's, you probably took it as that's the clue of, like, her actually doing it. To me, prior to talking to that person on set that said that she used this lawyer, then that's how we got introduced to Satan. Yeah. And everything else, I truly do not believe that she intentionally did that. I believe that's I really believe that whole thing, and then him winding up with that old lawyer, was just to show how much of a minefield that whole thing is. Because even towards the very end, like right when she's fully on board with having this lawyer doing everything that she needs to do to get things over with, she still does not come across as that manipulative.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I can see I read it as she went to all these lawyers after she met with Laura Dern. Because up until the point where she meets Laura Dern, she's not seeing lawyers. She's not interested in getting the thing moving. She's out there to shoot that pilot. It's only when the assistant director comes up and says, "Hey, you need to go see Laura Dern," that everything starts. So I think Laura Dern has her go to these other lawyers to screw him up.
Okay, well, if that's the case, that just
I don't
makes
know
that lawyer being Satan even more.
And I don't know if that, I don't know how. I think she's probably ignorant to all of that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think there was some intent, whether it's from ScarJo or Laura Dern's characters.
Satan.
Yeah. I don't want to call Laura Dern Satan.
No, I'm talking about the character. I'm not talking about the actress. That's why.
I know. It just
that's
makes me
why
feel
I
bad.
don't have a problem with it.
Like, they just started.
Makes me feel bad.
Yeah.
Doesn't make me feel bad.
She won an Oscar. She's a nice lady.
Exactly. She's a nice lady, and she did a great job. She did an
She
excellent.
took out that Star Destroyer.
She did an excellent job of playing Satan. Congrats.
But I mean, this exact topic though is exactly why I like this movie. Where, I'm the child of two divorced parents. Like, this kind of stuff happened in my real life too, where mom would go do something, whether it was innocuous or not, was completely unknown. She would do something. Dad would take it as, oh no, this was a direct attack, or would take it as, oh, she didn't know what she was doing. And there was never really that clarity of why did you do this? And all we had ever were just little hints of like, well, she said it this way, and probably that means she didn't do it. And I love that because so much in this movie can be attributed to, well, did they do that on purpose? Like, the part that got me the most was at the divorce court trial when they brought up her drinking. And they're like, oh, well, her alcoholism. And it was like, no, like, definitely not. And you were like, well, did Adam Driver say to focus on that? Or did he just bring it up because he's a terrible lawyer too?
What I think that was because, Adam Driver's character, he made up his mind, or started making up his mind, that he was going to go with the other lawyer as soon as about probably 10 seconds into hearing that awful joke that his current lawyer was trying to tell him when they were on break. I feel like that's when the thought process was, I'm just going with the other guy. If my ex-wife hired Satan, then I need my own Satan. And so that's what that was. And
well, I think that's what that was. Yeah,
I truly do. And Ray Liotta.
Ray
yes,
Liotta.
Perfect.
Almost got it.
Perfect.
Yeah, I wondered why he wasn't in The Irishman. Now I know. He was doing something else for Netflix.
Yeah.
Okay. So, in this divorce story...
Thank you.
Did you guys find yourself rooting for somebody over the other? Like, did you find yourself rooting for Adam Driver over ScarJo?
I found myself yelling at both of them.
Okay.
Because I had a feeling that they were both being idiots, because one of the things that I didn't care if this ended up with them getting back together or not. They were both idiots because when the communication was their biggest problem.
Yeah.
It was glaring. That was the biggest problem in this whole thing, to where Scarlett Johansson's character, for better or for worse, never really explained her true feelings about what she wanted in her life to Adam Driver's character, and just kind of went along for the ride. Her character's words. She went along for the ride. And she thought that would be enough, which I could see some people, thinking that, and then they wind up in a place where it's like, hang on a second, this is not where I want to be, and they want to get out. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the way that they cared for each other, even though the love may not fully be there like it was before, is what was troubling. And I was constantly thinking to myself, one or two words could change the path that they're on, regardless of all of the outside, noise that they're getting. One or two things said at a certain time throughout the whole movie could have changed things, could have changed the way that things were going. And then after the film, when I was reading all of the articles, the article in the Atlantic that I mentioned before, the person who reviewed this movie interviewed a marriage counselor and asked him what was this movie work or fun for you? And the marriage counselor said, actually, this was pretty entertaining because the person would have loved to have those two characters in their room, because that marriage counselor said that these two characters could have been saved. Was it that they were not at the point that other couples that this person sees in reality are, where the marriage is just done and they're doing counseling to make sure that the divorce runs smoothly. The counselor said that the idea of having a couple like Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver's characters in a room to talk about their issues to this marriage counselor was almost sounded fun to them because of how much they still cared for each other.
Okay.
So that feeling of these two, that I had of that these two could, potentially save themselves or at least make the divorce easier, I felt was valid after reading that article.
All right. Devon, how about you?
Maybe that's one of the things that drew me in about this movie so much, though, was even at the very end, when Scarlett Johansson was with somebody else, they were definitely divorced. Their divorce and their co-parenting was normal. You can tell they still at least had a lot of respect for each other, if not still cared for each other. And I think it's that nuance of emotion where the marriage is over, that part of our lives is over, but we still care about each other and it's not a definite hate. I think that's what I get really drawn to in movies, is that like complexity of character, where like in the beginning when Scarlett Johansson gives him the papers or serves him the divorce papers and he doesn't immediately blow up and walk out of the room. They put their son to bed and then they discuss a hotel he's going to sleep in and he leaves. It shows that level of respect but forced distance. And I think that it's situations like that thought breaks my heart so much. I think that the fact that they still care for each other, they still have respect for each other, but they're definitely down this path now and neither one of them is turning back and neither one of them is going to take that step to save it. That's what I think the real tragedy here is. Not that, I mean, the lawyers getting involved and it getting out of their hands sucks. But the fact that they won't take that step and they all know it's there. And
I think part of it is part of them wants to go down that path of the lawyers because they're both upset about the way this is playing out. He's upset that she's in LA. She's upset that he
doesn't want her in LA.
Yeah. So it's both kind of like, just to spite you, I'm going to do this. And then it just escalates and escalates and escalates until the point when they're in court. Like it just gets out of control, out of anger and like spite.
And I think a good a good point to pull on for that is where I forget when it is exactly. No, Satan's involved in this scene, but not Ray Liotta. Liotta?
Ray Liotta. Yeah.
Ray, thank you. Is
Henry Hill.
Yeah, there we go. Is when they're talking about things that, like, whenever it's an idea that goes Adam's way, it's a plan. But whenever it's something that Scarlett wants done, it's a discussion.
Yeah.
And they bring that up. And it's one of those things where you could tell Adam Driver put an expression on his face for his character of like, do I do that? It was just disbelief. Like he wasn't aware that he was actually doing that. It was just because of the type of person he is. He's a director in New York. Like, he's very, like, this is what I want. This is what happens. And he didn't realize he was carrying that over into his personal relationships. And that's what I really liked about that scene. It was kind of like, I mean, yeah, he was being a dick about that, but at the same time, nobody really called him out on it until then.
But at the same time, like, even after she does the pilot and her show goes to series, he's still expecting her to move back to New York. And even though that's not going to happen because she has a TV show in Los Angeles.
And that's part of him not being able to get it all the way through his head that it's like, not going his way for once. Because even like she said to her lawyer, like, almost everything that he wanted to do, they did.
Yeah.
Like, they wanted to go to Europe. He wanted to go to Europe for 6 months to work on that project. They went to Europe for 6 months to work on that project. It's like whatever he wanted to do, they did.
This is how I saw the movie. Adam Driver is the villain. Like, throughout the whole thing, he's the bad guy. He's the one who kept her from LA, from her career.
Yeah.
He held her back. He's the one who's saying, no, you need to come back to New York. He's the one who, like, everything she does, I think she's manipulated into doing. Everything he does, sleeping with the stage director, making her, saying she has to come back to New York, like, that's all on him. She's manipulated by Laura Dern's Nora character.
Yeah.
He's just straight up a dick.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I feel like
that's how I saw this movie.
Yeah, no, and that's fine. And I'm not disagreeing with that at all. I'm just saying that I feel like part of that dickishness from him, he's not really aware of. That
he might not be, but it's still there.
Yeah, no. It's totally still there. That's all I'm saying.
And she calls it on him enough before the lawyers get involved, to the point that they get involved, that it should have been addressed in, whether it's in counseling, therapy, their priest, I don't know, but it should have been addressed before that.
True. But what I'm saying is that at the same time, I think that therapy session was probably like their second or third.
It sounded like it wasn't the first.
I don't think it was a therapy session. It was a mediator. It wasn't a therapy session. It was a mediator.
It was a mediator. But I feel like at that point, like, she kept on trying to bring this up, and he wouldn't see it because of just, they've been together for 10 years. And I feel like to him, this is all kind of sudden, and he acts like that, like it's sudden. And I feel like it took 5 or 6 people to throw it in his face before he realized it.
Yeah. And I don't think he really does until everything's done.
Yeah, no, he does it until like the very end. And you can see a distinct change in him.
Yeah. Once he actually once he starts decorating his apartment, that's when he's actually trying to get everything. Like, he knows that there's a chance that he's not going to win. Yeah. He's cocky throughout the whole thing that they are going to go back to New York and he's going to be able to go do his play. When he lost the show on Broadway, that should have been the first sign that everything's going bad. But it took him months after that to figure it out.
Yeah.
So,
I just want to say too, as a little point, the whole cutting of the arm thing.
Okay.
I don't think that needed to be in there at all.
No. Okay, good. Because that part actually really grated on me too. It didn't feel like it fit.
That to me is like the biggest element of a dark comedy. Like, it's like, I thought he was going to die. Like, I honestly thought when he was laying on the floor just bleeding, like, I thought he was going to die. And he looked like he wanted to, because and I think that's where the character was. Like, he's like, oh my God, I just messed this up so bad that I'm just going to lay here and bleed out. Yeah. Like, I feel like he's so defeated in that moment. I thought that whole observation was awkward as hell. And it was. Yeah. And like, for that, I had to pause the movie and step away when he cut the arm. Like, that just got me. Like, I can't do that. Like, that shit is just,
So wait, Ryan, was that part too awkward for you?
Kind of like taking a drill to the eye socket and taking out the, no, never mind.
Oh, that part hurt. That sounds like it hurt.
I'm trying to reference something to a TV show that I think he's watching, but I'm not sure now. Oh. Anyway. Let's keep on.
No, I know what you're talking about.
Okay, yeah.
We'll talk about that after the show.
Yeah. Anyway.
But Ryan, was that part too awkward for you? Because I know when you get awkwarded out in movies, like you really feel that. Like for me, that was like so freaking cringy.
Yeah, no, like that was a 5. I talked about that whole like anxiety scale thing. Like that was a 5. Yeah. Like I had to like, I was sitting on the couch. I grabbed a pillow. I had to keep on reminding myself that it was going to be over in a few minutes. Like it got really bad.
I was dry heaving. I was like, no.
My reaction was completely different. My thing with the whole cutting of the arm thing, that's when the whole 5 went to a 0, and I was like, this didn't need to be in the movie. It doesn't fit.
Yeah.
Like that's when that took me directly out of the movie completely.
Speaking of things that took me out of the movie, I've got a big gripe with this movie.
Okay, so what's your huge issue?
Okay. So they have this giant fight scene where they're all yelling at each other like, I wish you were dead. And they're both acting their asses off. Like that's the clip that they submitted to the Oscars.
Scene.
Fantastic scene. My problem with it is the Randy Newman score right after it to like transition scenes where it just sounds like he's about to break into "You've Got a Friend in Me." Like, you got a friend in me. Like the Randy Newman score was in that moment was too close to Toy Story that it took me right out of the movie. Like everything that I just got from that scene, gone.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. I need to rewatch this.
That's what your huge thing was.
Yes. Because it's such a dramatic moment. And Randy Newman's fantastic, don't get me wrong. But it was like the chords were just, and the rhythm was just so close to Toy Story in that moment that it made me think of that. I'm like, wait, I just watched these two top of their game actors act their asses off, and now I'm thinking of You've Got a Friend in Me. And I was waiting for like Sarah McLachlan and a doll to be left at the side of the road, and it just it took me right out of it.
I feel like that's you.
But it is, and it's completely fine. Like I know how I am.
Okay.
But I will say a moment that redeemed that musically was at the end when they both get their chance to sing.
Yeah.
And she's singing this happy song with her mother and sister, celebrating, like she's happy where she is in life. She's got a show that's successful. She's in LA where she's wanted to be. She's back with her family. She's singing this joyous song. And then he's singing Being Alive from Company. And he's just wearing his heart on his sleeve, singing to his friends, just pouring out his heart. Like, it's like, one, I didn't know Adam Driver could sing. And he's maybe not the best singer, but
it was good for what that was.
That moment is just so powerful. And they did it all in one take. And I'm pretty sure it looked like it was Randy Newman playing piano in that scene too. It looked like it. I couldn't tell, but that as much as I hated the Toy Story transition, I loved him singing. Like I need to look at the soundtrack and see if that's on there because that got to me.
Okay, so Kristen and I have watched Toy Story, Toy Story 3, and Toy Story 4 in the past 2 weeks.
Why did you skip 2?
Huh?
Why did you skip 2?
We just did. We didn't. It wasn't intentional. It was just something. It was like we just didn't. I like 3. I really like 1. We were gonna watch 2 one night, but I got home from late to work. I got home.
You didn't want to cry at the Jesse song. That's what it was.
Oh,
Jesse
it's so
song?
sad.
It's sad
when somebody loves you.
Yeah.
What from 2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
3 is the tearjerker.
2 has that song with Jesse being alone.
Okay.
That one got me.
Yeah.
No.
It's a lot funnier when Randy Newman sings.
Yeah. No. Randy Newman doesn't make me feel sad. Randy Newman doesn't make me feel anything.
It's the Sarah McLachlan song.
Okay.
Where she's left on the side of the road. Do you not have a heart?
No, I do, because I cried when they were about to go into the incinerator in 3, and they were all holding hands, looking at each other. To me, that's more emotionally clinging than just, a box being left on the side of the road. Now, if there were actual animals in the box, I'd be upset. But it's a toy. And 4, we haven't seen 4, so I'm not going to say anything.
It is a child's plaything.
Anyway.
Wait, you haven't seen 4, Alan?
I saw that we what I'm trying to say is that I watched 3 out of the 4 Toy Story films before watching this very recently.
Yeah.
And nothing reminded me of Toy Story in that song, that transition song. Nothing.
That's
and
fine.
I've just and it's been in my head for the past 2 weeks.
It's fine. It's not even just Toy Story. It was just so Randy Newman that I was also expecting Monk to start walking up the street.
Monk.
This movie did need a lot more Tony Shalhoub. I think you're right.
Yeah. Oh man, Tony Shalhoub.
Tony Shalhoub.
Have you guys watched Marvelous Mrs. Maisel?
Yes, and he's
He's
fantastic.
one of the best parts of that show.
Tony
He
Shalhoub.
absolutely.
Monk.
Oh, the actor Monk.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I like Monk. I also liked Wings.
He's anything. I mean, I can't think of a bad thing Tony Shalhoub is in. I think
Same.
maybe the worst is like Men in Black 2.
Yeah.
he was
13
in
Ghosts
that.
was great.
Yeah, he's the pawn shop guy from the first one who gets Kay back his memory.
Do you have any idea
He
how much
was.
that stings?
Oh, that was him. Wow.
The best Tony Shalhoub performance, my favorite Tony Shalhoub anything is Galaxy Quest. Hey
Oh,
guys,
yeah, he was in that.
they're telling me that the engines can't take much more of this, so if we could just slow down.
I absolutely love him in that because he's the only one out of all of them who is absolutely loving what is going on. Like he
Yeah.
is absolutely in love with everything that's going on to them, and he's just going with it.
Okay, back to Marriage
Good
Story.
actor. Yeah, I mean, so the one thing I wanted to bring up, because I know we're kind of short on time, I
Yes.
wanted to bring up the fight. We touched on it a little bit, but this is one of the things that I think was memed the most.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen any of them. I know they exist, but I haven't seen a single Marriage Story meme. But Alan, you said you knew what it was because of it. Was the fight scene ruined, or did it lose its impact because of the memes?
I don't think it was ruined. I think I knew it was coming. I think when I watch that scene, I'm just looking at it as here are these two actors in these characters just letting it all out. Like everything's been building and building and building. And even in the scene before they actually start yelling at each other, you can just feel that tension build. And it gets to the point where this needs to happen. So it's very cathartic for both of them. So when they finally do explode, it's just there's so much rage and passion there. Because I don't think you'd get to that point unless they cared. Like, I don't think if they didn't both have mutual respect for each other, they wouldn't have gotten to that point where it just took so long for them to explode like that.
Well, because it's grief and it's disappointment
Yeah.
because of how they put each other in each other's minds. They put the other on a pedestal,
Yeah.
and that pedestal was false. And it's their disappointment in themselves. It's the disappointment in the other, and it's grief that it's all coming to an end. And that's everything that you saw in that scene.
But as far as like the memes go, like the one thing I saw was like him saying, "Don't you dare compare me to my father," and then it's just like a picture of Han Solo.
See, I
didn't
know
know that
it
was a
from a
thing.
GIF.
Yeah,
There's a GIF of him yelling.
yeah.
But people put different things in there. So,
Yeah,
I mean, I
it's-
knew it was from this. I just didn't know when it was going to happen.
It's that, and it's like him yelling and his arms pointing down. He's like chicken nuggets, and then it's Baby Yoda chicky nuggies. Like
Yeah.
it's really stupid stuff.
Okay, so nothing like that ruined the scene or anything
No,
like that. Like,
but speaking of memes, I feel like we need to address this real quick. Did you guys see any of the Kobe Bryant memorial last night?
No.
no, I didn't.
So Michael Jordan spoke,
Yeah.
and he had a moment where he's crying, and he's like, "And damn, my brother Kobe, like it's all his fault that I'm gonna have to deal with another crying Jordan meme for the
Yes, he
next several
said
years."
that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yes.
everyone lost it. Like it's a sad moment because he's heartbroken about Kobe,
Yeah.
but at the same time, he's like, I know what the internet's going to do with this, and I told my wife that I don't want to have to deal with this for the next few years. But here you go, internet.
Yeah.
And then right away today, like Reddit was just all crying Jordan.
Of course. The crying Michael Jordan meme is like in the Hall of Fame of memes.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay. Final thoughts on Marriage Story.
It's good. I just don't think you should ever use it to compare rom-coms with.
I think it's a good way to look at a realistic portrayal of a relationship.
Yes.
I don't think you should expect a realistic portrayal of a relationship from a rom-com.
Yes.
I think that's going to be the part I struggle with the most.
Yeah.
I think that's, but I might get over it.
And I feel like the whole different concepts for a rom-com, like there's no way you can take Kate and Leopold dramatically seriously because he's from the 1800s, she's from 1990s New York. Like,
oh, interesting.
And Sleepless in Seattle's kind of like a fantasy to a point, so you can't really take that seriously either. It's a nicely acted movie, and it's Tom Hanks.
It's Nora Ephron. It's very well done.
Yes.
Another romantic movie that I will have you guys watch soon that I wouldn't classify as a comedy, but it's called Somewhere in Time, and I think we've talked about this before. It's Christopher Reeve and Jane Seymour.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And he travels back in time and falls in love with her, and it has to. That's all I'm going to say. It's a beautiful movie. When I went on my Superman kick in high school, I watched it. I was like, oh my God, I love this. Because I just love a good time travel movie, and it's different in the way they portray it. So we'll definitely watch that down the line. But it's definitely not a romantic comedy. It's just straight up romance. So I do have one more thing that I want to talk about with Marriage Story, and it's the Halloween costumes at the end.
Yeah,
because I read a little bit of significance into his costume. So his ex-wife, her boyfriend, the mother-in-law, and their son are the Beatles.
Oh yeah, and he's a ghost.
Yeah, and then so he's on the outside, but then the very end of he's wearing the costume as a ghost, as this outsider, and then he takes off the costume, and she's like, "Hey, you know what? He's tired. Why don't you take him for the night?" Like that, him taking off that costume shows that they are able to cohabitate and co-parent successfully, and I wouldn't say it's a happy ending, but it's as happy as an ending that you're going to get in this movie.
It's to make sure the son's not going to grow up to be the lead singer of Senses Failed.
But
I liked it, Ryan. I liked
good.
it.
Yeah.
Devon, you know who they are?
Yeah, I've heard of them before.
Oh, good.
I don't know a lot about them, but I've heard of them.
Yeah, no, their lead singer has. Yeah. Some of their songs are about that kind of a thing.
Okay, so Devon, this is your film. Final thoughts?
Yeah. Guys, I don't know what to say. I like this movie. It surprised me in a lot of ways, and it made me feel a lot. And I think that any movie that can genuinely do that is a good movie in my book. So
it is. It's
I loved it.
Okay, so we talked about this because Laura Dern won for Best Supporting Actress.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So I think next week we're going to take a look at another Best Acting category. Brad Pitt won for Best Supporting Actor. We're going to skip Best Actor because we already did Joker. But Best Supporting Actor went to Brad Pitt for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I saw before the end of last year and really enjoyed, and I feel like you guys need to watch it. So tune in next week when I have these guys watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for the first time. If I say time one more time, I'm going to lose track of all time. So, okay. So for You Have to Watch This podcast, I'm Alan.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Devon.
And we'll see you next week.
Somebody crowd me with love. Somebody force me to care. Somebody make me come through. I'll always be there, as frightened as you, to help us survive. Being alive, being alive.